The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved, and 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, we have served our nation as a force in readiness. From combat operations to humanitarian assistance in every corner of the world. No matter where the mission takes us today, or wherever our country needs us tomorrow, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for each other, for our nation, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here, but then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you could still have hepatitis C, a serious disease that's a leading cause of liver cancer. If you were born from 1945 to 65, you should get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments can cure this disease. Talk to your doctor about getting tested. A message from the CDC.
See that cute little dog in the pet store window? Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that forces caged, neglected, and often sick dogs to churn out puppy after puppy to be sold for profit. Meanwhile, millions of wonderful, healthy pets end up in animal shelters. This leads to the killing of more than 9,000 by the end of today. But with one simple choice, you can help. just by deciding to adopt instead of purchase your next pet. Animal shelters are full of amazing pets looking for a home. When you adopt your new best friend, not only are you saving a life, you're taking a stand against puppy mills. When your friends see the smart choice and impact you've made, they adopt their next pet and share with 5 of their friends, who share with 5 more. Before long, thousands get involved. Pet stores stop selling dogs from puppy mills, and even more lives are saved. And with your help, we can save them all. Visit bestfriends.org/puppymills to learn more.
Thousands of families affected by disasters, like the recent wildfires, urgently need support. You can help the American Red Cross provide warm meals, shelter, and hope to families when they need it most. Please donate today to Red Cross Disaster Relief to help people affected by disasters, big and small. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS today. Your support is critical. We can't do it without you.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
It is Monday morning. It is I, your lovable host, Elrod, coming to you live from the Bunker Eye studio, somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. Here it is. No, and it didn't change over the weekend, by the way. I did check, and it did not change. Here it is, Monday, February number 20 in the year of our Lord 2017. Amazing. We had about a week left of February now. That's about it. Yes, February 20th is today. Call-in number this morning, should you wish to utilize it, is 603-835-3226. And we start off this morning by something that I saw over on Twitter, in the Twitterverse. Yeah, it looks like J.K. Rowling, and for those of you who do not know who J.K. Rowling is, she's the wordsmith, the author of all of those wonderful Harry Potter movies. Now, J.K. Rowling has become enormously successful financially due to the Harry Potter series, mostly due to the Harry Potter movies. Now, she made a lot of money off the books, make no mistake about it. I mean, she's like the Stephen King of Wizard World, whatever, novels. It's safe to say that without Harry Potter, we probably wouldn't have Twilight. You know, those Twilight. Twilight. For those of you who don't know, Twilight is actually a series of novels as well. Now, I've heard a bunch of people talk about. I don't know who wrote. I haven't seen any of the Twilight movies. Now, I've seen the Harry Potter movies simply because I had a friend of mine who was very into Harry Potter. I know she was older, but she was very into Harry Potter, so I had to watch them with her. But nobody I knew was really into Twilight, so I wasn't forced to sit through that mess, which is a good thing, because I have not read the books. I think I read one cover of the first book, and I realized it was going to be, I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, but then they decided they were going to make movies out of it, and of course, the rest, as they say, is history. And they've done a number of film adaptions to novels, especially of late. Well, obviously, Lord of the Rings is an adaptation of novels. But those are good novels. But I mean, the Harry. I got to give it to her. The Harry Potter books. I mean, those are some tomes. Those are not short. Most of them are not short. The latter ones are not short books. What was the last one? The last was 700 or 800 pages long. And it's amazing that she was actually able to get, tweens and teens, young teens, to actually read books that big. That was a good thing. I'm going to give her props for that because kids were actually reading those things. So that's a good thing. But she's taken her fame, and by some estimates, J.K. Rowling is worth some $1.5 billion US. Now, I don't know if that's what she's actually worth, but neither here nor there. All of that came about, 95% of it is strictly due to her Harry Potter stuff, her Harry Potter novels and tie-ins to the movies, and of course, product placement and all that kind of stuff. But a few weeks ago, J.K. Rowling, she's become I'm convinced that if you become fabulously wealthy, I mean, darling, you are so wealthy now. If you become fabulously wealthy now, then you get to enter into the realm of the hypocritical globalist rich. And look, not everybody falls for that kind of crap. I get it. I'm not saying that every rich person is of this ilk. But it seems that there are far too many rich people that are of this ilk. And just, look, she got immersed in Hollywood. And we all know what Hollywood is full of a bunch of extreme leftists. And she got immersed in it. I mean, she was it's her own damn fault that she got immersed in it because she has her own brain and imagination in order to write these books. But so she's now one of these leftist globalists that believes in, open borders, refugeeism, and all that kind of stuff. Well, evidently there was a petition started by a Frenchman. Yes, and for Frenchman, that means somebody that is male and hails from France. But this is from the New Indian Express, but this has been all over the internet for the past couple of weeks, especially on Twitter. J.K. Rowling, there's a petition that is asking Rowling to take refugees in her 18 spare bedrooms in one of her mansions. I guess she has more than one. Well, of course she's worth $1.5 billion. I mean, what good billionaire only has one home? I mean, for crying out loud, you got to have more than one. But in any case, this online petition has asked J.K. Rowling, who has been an ardent supporter of allowing refugees from the Middle East to give shelter to 18 refugees in each of her 18 spare rooms. Now, the petition was started on the platform change.org, and the name of the petitioner is shown as Marcus Aurelius from France, Aurelius. Now, I'm going to guess that's probably not his real name, but evidently he's from, France. And this is on change.org. Now, change.org is not a conservative site. It's a liberal site. So somebody on a liberal site is asked J.K. Rowling to put her money where her mouth is, pretty much, and her beliefs where her mouth is. Because Rowling has been noted as being one that has been for open borders and believing in this refugee nonsense. Now, again, she is of that ilk, of that elitist cloud, where she doesn't have to run into this stuff on a daily basis. That's the other thing, is you got all these wonderful elites running around out there that don't have to interact with their decisions on a daily basis. So they can say all kinds of, it's kind of like a politician. But see, you have these really wealthy people now who, look at Mark Zuckerberg trying to build a wall around his various homes and compounds, residential compounds now. While campaigning against a wall on our southern border, because walls are not good for a country. But obviously, walls are good for individuals. Why? What's the wall do? It keeps people you don't want to get in out. So you got J.K. Rowling, who's now running around talking about, well, hey, we should let these people in. Well, it's going to cost a whole hell of a lot of money, but everybody's asking, well, why aren't you contributing, J.K.? Why aren't you contributing to this nonsensical type of mess that you propose? Because you don't have to deal with it on a daily basis. And, there's definite truth to that. She doesn't have to deal with it on a daily basis. Because she's one of the fabulously wealthy. They don't, I don't, you get to a certain level, I guess you don't drive your own car anymore to do things. I mean, if you're going for a drive in the countryside, then you may drive yourself. But otherwise, if you're just driving, normally if you're going to the office or if you're going to a meeting or you're going to check with your stockbroker or you're going to lunch or to brunch or you're going to, the club, you don't drive yourself. You'll get your man to drive you, your chauffeur. And you don't interact with people. And of course, most of these wealthy people have at least one bodyguard, and that bodyguard is usually very well armed. Hey, but, including in England, you're not supposed to have a gun yourself. But they can hire people to have guns. So I guess that's the whole point. You shouldn't have a gun yourself, but you can hire people. But so they're calling out J.K. Rowling, and the people should do this more. And this is on change.org, by the way. So people should do this more often with all these other Hollywood elitists. Now I know she's from Britain, but she's basically a Hollywood elitist now. Hey, she's got what are 7 movies? Yeah, they took the last book and split it into 2 movies, right? So they have 7 movies out there. I wasn't that huge of a fan of her. They were slightly entertaining, I suppose, but and over the weekend, I don't know how The Wall did. I didn't look that up. With what Matt Damon is the star of the movie. It's an interesting take. The Wall is actually, the movie itself looks good. It looks like it could be entertaining, but the whole premise is stupid. So if you have alien, I probably shouldn't talk about it because I don't know really. I've only seen a couple of trailers for it, so I don't really know the whole basis behind it. But I get the gist is aliens have landed, and the Great Chinese Wall. The Great Wall of China is there not to keep out the Mongols or any other enemies of China, but to keep out these aliens, and they're the last hope for mankind is defending the wall against these aliens. So if the aliens can land on one side of the wall, why don't they just land on the other side of the wall? I know I'm not supposed to ask such a question. But again, I don't know much about the movie. I've just seen the trailer a couple of times, and it looked fairly entertaining. And frankly, that's all I go to the movies for, is to be entertained. I don't go to be taught something or to feel something or to be a part of something. I go to be entertained. Plain and simple. Did I go into any movies this weekend? No, I didn't. But I was entertained. I saw a few more episodes of Samurai Jack on Hulu, so I was well entertained. People are probably thinking, what the hell is a Samurai Jack? I guess they're bringing Samurai Jack back next month. Somehow I don't think it's going to be as good as it was, because I think it ended its run in 2005-ish, somewhere around there. But in any case, no, I don't think there are any Samurai Jack novels out there. Maybe I could write one. It'd be kind of cool. Would I be allowed to do that, or do I got to get permission? Probably have to get permission, don't I? To write a Samurai Jack novel. Novella. Is it novella? The small novels, short novels? I don't know. In any case, a lot of stuff happening out there, folks. What's happening in Europe right now is what's happening in Europe right now is we got John McCain over there. Yeah, I know. And you've got the press. You got some people in the press, or in Twitter especially. You got Hillary Clinton chiming in on something that Donald Trump said, and after she says it, it kind of immediately bites her in the butt. But we'll get into all that stuff as the program unfolds. Don't go anywhere, folks. You're listening to me, your lovable host, L. Rod, here on the Rod Eccles Show.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-595-2614 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 595-2614 to take your call now. Call 800-595-2614. That's 800-595-2614. Again, 800-595-2614.
It started with a knock, but it wouldn't end there. What happens in the story next, many wouldn't understand, and most wouldn't believe. 5 + 2 = Perfection by Samuel Rosette Jr. is a must-read. The scriptures within are reminders of the ancient past, and yet intriguingly infuses with texts which stand on the edge of the stage of relevancy. Available online at Westbow Press, Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and SamuelRosetteJr.com.
We've all heard of male enhancement, but now there's an expert on true male enhancement in the areas that really count. In Herb Ellis's book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, you'll find answers to questions like, why doesn't she want to have sex? A quick start, quick results workout guide. Plus, what you can do as a side hustle to make money now. With all the great tips in this book, every man can benefit. Get the book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, on Amazon.com.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, a long-haired young person came into our bank and said to me, I bet you won't lend me money to buy an electric guitar. Well, he was making $100 a week, and he was over 18, and I said, I bet you I will lend you money to buy an electric guitar. And I did. So what happens? The punk gets busted for possession of dangerous drugs, and we're out $350. There's one thing about kids nowadays. You don't have to give them credit.
Universal Bank. We trust you. About as far as we can throw you.
603-835-3226. That is the number to call should you wish to join me here live this Monday, February 20, 2017 morning. It appears that John McCain is out there flapping his trap out there over there in Germany. I think he's in Germany. And for those of you in Rush Limbaugh's Rio Linda, that's just that's a cool way to say Germany. You can say Germany because isn't the G sometimes? Well, isn't a G? Well, I guess it depends on the language. Sometimes G is pronounced with a J, and we know that J's are sometimes pronounced as a Y. So Germany. John McCain is, and this is from the Washington Post, John McCain is increasingly mad as hell about Donald Trump. And over the weekend, starting on Friday, he went after Trump very hard, says the Post. During a speech at the Munich Security Conference in Germany, the Republican senator from Arizona, notice how they always make sure that everybody knows that within the first couple of paragraphs, no matter who it is, where it is, why it is, or who's writing it, why they're writing it, doesn't matter. They always make sure that within the first couple of paragraphs, you know that John McCain is a, Republican. Now, there have been a lot of stories of late where we've had a bunch of idiot Democrats acting like idiots and even doing illegal things, and even some of the things that they're doing that's legal or that's just plain stupid in certain legislatures across the country. You got to read almost the entire story to find out that they're Democrat. Well, that's how you know that they're Democrat, because they don't mention that they're Democrat in the first two sentences. But in any case, so here you have John McCain is a Republican from Arizona. He delivered a pointed and striking point-by-point takedown of Trump's worldview and brand of nationalism. This brand of nationalism that is, spreading across the globe. There's this nationalistic movement, in small countries like, Great Britain and France, Sweden, and the Netherlands. I got a story here in the paper pile about the Netherlands, nationalism rising in the Netherlands, of all places. Norway is experiencing a rise in nationalism. So the Nordic country, the pale people of the North are starting to feel their oats. Can you go figure that one? So you get all those wonderful, open-minded, socialistic types of wanting to share everything with everybody types of countries like Finland, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, all those wonderful Nordic pale people countries. Oh, by the way, it's a myth that all Swedes are blondes and blue eyes. That's all Nordic people are blonde-haired, blue eyes. That's not true. There's a lot of brown-haired, brown-eyed Nordics, by the way. Naturally so. I mean, I'm not talking. I know there's a lot of mixing going on up there right now because of all the refugees, but no, there's naturally speaking, there's a bunch of brown-haired and brown-eyed people up there, not just blue-eyed, pale, blonde people. But anyway, so you have all these wonderful Nordic countries that are now feeling their oats and trying to be, less. They're feeling less generous, let's say, because of what's been happening of late. And hell, you got Sweden that wants to pay them up to $70,000 US, the equivalent of $70,000 to leave. I don't know where they're going to send them to, because nobody else wants to take them. You even have Angela Merkel, who's having second thoughts about keeping her borders open. You got this stuff going on in France and Paris again. I think the French people have really just, the more that they have riots and the more terrorist attacks, and even if it's just simple rogue people out there doing these attacks, and the more somebody like with Marine Le Pen, I think that woman's she's got a very good chance of being France's next president. You want to talk about a clamped down hard nationalist French person? That woman she's France all the time, and she's so French. She can take the clock. It's not 24/7. It's 25/7 because she's that French. They get an extra hour. This nationalism that McCain is so adamantly against here in the U.S. is spreading across the world. Well, the Russians and the Chinese have never lost their nationalistic sensibilities. No, they've always had it. They don't. I don't see any Russian open borders. See any Chinese open borders? I don't see any Asian open borders. Period. See any Asian open borders? No, I don't see any African open borders. In the continent of Africa, no open borders down there. So who are these idiots that want to be globalists, that want to have open borders? The only people, J.K. Rowling, seems to be Europe and the U.S. of A. Because even Mexico doesn't really have open borders. I'm trying to figure out what is it, where are they getting this idea that everybody's got open borders, everybody should have open borders, when we're the only nut jobs that want this open borders crap. Africa doesn't have it. Arabia doesn't have it. Asia doesn't have it. Eastern Europe, much of Eastern Europe doesn't have, well, some of Eastern Europe because they're part of the European Union, some of them. So yeah, but hey, you know, places like Hungary, you know, they were trying to shut down their borders. They didn't want any part of it. They didn't want open borders. They tried to put up walls and fences and stuff. Sometimes that stuff didn't work, but they really tried. They tried.
The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved, and 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, we have served our nation as a force in readiness. From combat operations to humanitarian assistance in every corner of the world. No matter where the mission takes us today, or wherever our country needs us tomorrow, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for each other, for our nation, for us all, the few, the proud, the Marines.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives. The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
Hello, America. It's me, your history. I remember a time when we thumbed our nose in a king's face, sent him packing. And when fascists and emperors talked a little bit too loud, we showed up, tore their cities to the ground, and then rebuilt them just to prove we could. We put men on the moon, we won a Cold War, and we elected fearless leaders who led fearless people. What the hell happened to you, America? Back in my day, we didn't elect a big-eared community organizer. We punched him in the kidney. Maybe it's time you came home, America. Home where you belong.
603-835-3226. That is the phone number for you to give me a buzz and join me here live here on the Rod Eccles Show, should you wish to do so. John McCain is out there he delivered a speech. He's the Republican senator from Arizona, and he delivered a pointed and striking point-by-point takedown of Trump's worldview and brand of nationalism. McCain didn't mention Trump's name, not even once. But he didn't have to. Of course, this is what the Washington Post is saying. And they go on to say, and even concerning the two men's up and down history and the terrible things that Trump has said about McCain. What terrible things has he said about McCain? Look, I've seen a lot of things lately about McCain that have not been flattering. There have been reports. I'm going to be very frank on this one. I don't know much about McCain's time as a POW. But look, it's as if it's turning out to be this John Kerry-esque, Swift boat-esque type of thing. Now, supposedly, there are people out there who are still alive that were also fellow POWs along with McCain, and they are writing, they don't have much respect for McCain. So when it comes to Trump saying, I don't consider McCain a hero, I prefer my heroes to have not been captured. Now, that was not a dig. Now, a lot of people think that's a dig at all POWs. That was not a dig at all POWs. That was a point. Now, if you know Donald Trump, you would understand that that is a pointed dig directly at and only at John McCain. Because they kept bringing up this whole notion, well, John McCain the hero, John McCain the hero this, the hero that, the hero, the war hero this, the Vietnam War vet, the hero. Everything was hero about John McCain. And they were trying to instill into a Trump campaign, because Trump had no military experience outside of the military school that he went to. And that, well, you're not a military person, Mr. Trump, but John McCain was a hero. And he just said, no, McCain's not a hero in my eyes. I prefer my heroes not to be captured. Now, what he was trying to say is, and there is a lot of stuff coming out about John McCain not being very heroic while he was a POW. I don't know if any of this is true. In other words, there is a lot of talk and a lot of chatter out there among all the people who should know that McCain was not really a hero, that he was kind of loose with his lips. Now, some McCain supporters would say that he was giving them disinformation and misinformation in order to protect some of the other service people that he was captured along with. But there are some of those same service people that he was captured along with said that's not true. That he was just trying to protect his own hide. Because after they had, injured him and damaged him, he didn't want to go through that anymore. His breaking his arms and things like that, which is why he can't raise them above his shoulders or some sort of thing. But so it's not just Trump who is saying bad things or nasty things about John McCain. There have been a lot of people of late, especially when he was running for president. There were a lot of people that came out of the woodwork that said that they knew him, and that, if you look at some of their records, military records, they most likely did know each other in the military. They were, in prison to get POWs and stuff together. So I don't know what the true story is. I'm going to admit it. I don't know. But I'm hearing a lot of stuff that doesn't paint John McCain in a very positive light. Just saying. But they're trying to pin all of this on Donald Trump, which is typical of the leftist media, because they don't want to try to get to the bottom of anything. So in his speech, McCain, however, said that the Western world is uniquely imperiled this year, even more so than when Barack Obama was president. Well, yeah, we're more uniquely imperiled because we're the only fools that have let in the enemy. I mean, it wasn't even a freaking Trojan horse. We just opened the doors and said, "Come on in." We know that some of you, I get these numbers all the time. Well, right, it's only 1 or 2% of the refugees could be. Oh, let me see. 1% of 100,000 is what? It's still 1,000, right? Well, let's just say it's out of 100,000 refugees, you only got 100. Let's say it's only 10. You want to take the chance that out of 100,000 refugees, that 10 of them have infiltrated the ranks and have come into your country and are now going to do all kinds of damage to your citizens and to your infrastructure, putting everybody, including the new refugees that just came into your country, at risk. I mean, let's think about that for a second. Anybody stop and think about that? You want all these refugees to come, but you're also letting in the terrorists and the combatants, who then in turn, once they get to the country that they're going to, they put the refugees in peril as well. So you're saving them from one hell only to introduce them to another one. That's kind of cruel, don't you think? I mean, did anybody ever think about that? No, of course not, because, they're all touchy-feely about, well, we got to let them in. Well, here's the deal. You have terrorists that we know have gotten into this country. Now, what happens if they threaten or put other refugees' lives in danger? You know when all this nonsense is really going to stop on the left is when you get a refugee terrorist kills another refugee. Then they're going to say, well, maybe we should rethink this. I guarantee you that's when they say, well, we need to rethink this whole refugee program. Hey, look, you gay people, they threw you under the bus. The Democrat Party threw you under the bus. Remember, the Pulse nightclub? They threw you under the bus. Oh, well, hell with that. We can't say it was Muslim or Islamic in nature. 49 people dead. No, they didn't even blame the terrorists. They blamed the gun, basically, first. It was, well, if you didn't have that gun. And, of course, as if it were on cue. Then we started getting all these terrorist attacks from these Islamic sympathizers and Islamic converts who start running around using knives and stabbing everybody and slicing people up. Because, we even heard from terrorist groups, like ISIS and that, they were saying, you know what, hey, stop using a gun. Just go and stab everybody. Since they don't like guns, let's not use guns now. Let's go and you take big knives and stab everybody. Notice how you didn't hear any leftists call for knife control or knife registration. And every time somebody committed a terrorist act with a knife and they knifed people, they wanted to downplay it. Oh, it was only 10 people that got sliced. Yeah, it's no big deal. Because, it takes longer for knives. You can't kill as many people with a knife. Well, I don't know. I still say it doesn't matter how you get dead, you're still dead. Anybody disagree with that? Doesn't matter how you get dead, you're still dead? It doesn't matter how you kill someone, you still killed someone. Do you think a dead person is going to say, well, that's unfair, you used a gun instead of a knife? But that's what they want to make you think. Like there's a more fair, it's kind of like the rules of engagement and the rules of war, where you're not supposed to use certain types of things and more. I mean, does it really matter? The whole point of war is to break things and kill people. And the whole point of war is to do it as efficiently as possible before your enemy does it to you. See, that's the whole point. Killing more of them than they kill of you. That's how you win wars. There's none of this fight fair type of crap because it doesn't really matter how you end up dead. You're still dead. But we have a bunch of people who just don't, who seem to think that if you're in a fair fight, somehow it's better. So I guess if the terrorists don't use guns, but they just use knives, that would be better. Oh, hell, why don't they just throw the knives away and continue using bombs like they have been using? It seems to work. They can turn just about anything, it seems like, into a bomb. They can turn a truck into a bomb. They can turn an airplane into hell, they can turn a backpack and a rice cooker into a bomb. They can turn themselves into a bomb. So they can come across the border. They can look all innocent and happy and say, oh, thank you for saving me. Act like they're a refugee and get into a country where they have freedom to roam and they gather all the stuff that they need. You can go to Home Depot and your local hardware store to get all these bomb parts and you assemble a bomb, you strap it to yourself, or you put it in a rice cooker, you toss it in a backpack, and you run around town and you place these things all over the place. And with today's technology, you don't even have to be there anymore. They hook them up to a cell phone. How many times does that happen? So, and it doesn't take 100 of them, does it? It doesn't even take 10. Just 1 or 2. So how many recent terror attacks in this country have there been more than, 2 participants? See, you had the Boston bombing. Well, it was just 2 brothers. They were refugees. You had the Pulse nightclub. That was just one guy. You had the San Bernardino shooters. Well, that was really one guy and his wife. And all over the place. I mean, you had the Fort Hood shooter was one person. So this whole notion that it's only 1%, Rod. Even if it was 0.0001%, in other words, only 1 out of 100,000. And you know that 1 out of 100,000 is coming in, and yet you still let them all in freely without checking any one of them. So you let that one in to come and do some massive damage. And they've done massive damage. Now, I'm not here to scare people or anything. But folks, Think about this. Some of these are lone wolves, they are, and some of them are not. But all of it is a test run for bigger and badder targets. Think about whatever is near you that could be a huge target to kill or disrupt as many people as possible. Now, when is it going to, how about we have all these wonderful cells that we know exist? And they're telling us that in some of these cells it could be as many as 50 soldiers. So what happens if you get, I don't know, a couple dozen of these guys together and they decide to do a raid, a full-on attack on just about, I don't know, any site, anywhere? Nuclear site, anybody? But hey, John McCain, they were refugees, so we had to open our borders to them all.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-595-2614 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 595-2614 to take your call now. Call 800-595-2614. That's 800-595-2614. Again, 800-595-2614.
It started with a knock, but it wouldn't end there. What happens in the story next, many wouldn't understand, and most wouldn't believe. 5 + 2 = Perfection by Samuel Rosette Jr. is a must-read. The scriptures within are reminders of the ancient past, and yet intriguingly infuses with texts which stand on the edge of the stage of relevancy. Available online at Westbow Press, Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and SamuelRosetteJr.com.
We've all heard of male enhancement, but now there's an expert on true male enhancement in the areas that really count. In Herb Ellis's book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, you'll find answers to questions like, why doesn't she want to have sex? A quick start, quick results workout guide, plus what you can do as a side hustle to make money now. With all the great tips in this book, every man can benefit. Get the book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, on Amazon.com.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, a long-haired young person came into our bank and said to me, I bet you won't lend me money to buy an electric guitar. Well, he was making $100 a week, and he was over 18, and I said, I bet you I will lend you money to buy an electric guitar. And I did. So what happens? The punk gets busted for possession of dangerous drugs, and we're out $350. There's one thing about kids nowadays. You don't have to give them credit.
Universal Bank. We trust you. About as far as we can throw you.
603-835-3226. You know, look, I understand everybody wanting to be, you know, all nice and friendly and want to bring the world together and all that kind of stuff. The good old kumbaya stuff. I have the dream of the dolphin too, you know, that man would live in peace. I get it. I know it's not going to happen. Not anytime soon. Let me be blunt about this. Let me be blunt. I don't trust anybody who believes in Islam. I don't. Not because they can't be trustworthy people, but because if they're going to be adamant about following their specific religion actually dictates that a certain group of people must be wiped out. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to turn my back on anybody who believes in that. I'm serious, folks. You know, you can call me Islamophobic all you want to. I don't call it Islamophobia. I call it reality. Now, sure that there are people, you know, just like Christians and Jews that don't follow all the tenets of their particular religion. I don't care what religion it is. It could be one of the major ones or any of the more minor ones. It does, and by minor, I just simply mean by the number of people that follow that particular religion. I know that they don't follow all the tenets. Look, I know many Christians don't follow all the tenets of Christianity. Yeah, and I get it. However, the basics and base of that religion and base are still there. So if someday they decide to wake up, quote unquote, and follow all the tenets, then what happens to somebody who's a Christian? And all of a sudden, you know, they're a non-practicing Christian. All of a sudden, they wake up and they follow the Christian Bible to the letter. Well, for the vast majority of the rest of us, they become very annoying. But they're not violent, because there's nothing in the Christian Bible that says for you to run out there and to kill everybody. And even if you want to be a Hasidic Jew, there's nothing in the Jews only killed people when God told them to do that, and only to gather the land that God promised them, and then only to keep the land that God promised them. It's just, called self-defense. Now, when was the last time you saw a Buddhist army raise up? Just asking. You got any Kabbalah armies out there? Any Taoist armies? Any Hindu armies out there running around trying to kill the entire world that doesn't believe the way they believe? Now, granted, there are people that believe in these various religions that are part of their nation's military. It's called self-defense. No, I mean, I don't, look, you have the leftists in this country and in Europe that blame Christianity for the Inquisition and for the Crusades. Yeah, the Inquisition, it was a dark time for Christianity. It really is. It's a dark stain on Christianity, but that's more Catholicism than Christianity. Now, I'm not going to get into the difference between Catholicism and Christianity, folks. You can go look it up yourself. But the Crusades were a response to who? Muhammad and his hordes. Islam. Plain and simple. Out of all the major religions on the planet, Islam is the only one within its texts, within its religious texts, demands that followers run out and convert or kill everyone. Plain and simple. So that's why I don't trust anybody who follows Islam, because that's in their Bible. You are to go out and convert or kill anyone who refuses to convert.
America is America because it is so American. The children, they are the future of children, and she loves the children. Diversity is diverse when diversity is diversified. For a future you can see,
for a future that brings with it all the hopes of tomorrow. By doing everything we did yesterday, we need a leader. We need a champion. We need her.
Vote for me! It's enough now! Give me it! It's mine! I want it! Just give me it! I want it now!
Stop asking questions and just give it to her already.
Or you're a sexist, racist.
Paid for by criminals and idiots for Hillary Clinton, because let's face it, you'd have to be one or the other to vote for this complete monster.
The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved, and 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, we have served our nation as a force in readiness. From combat operations to humanitarian assistance in every corner of the world. No matter where the mission takes us today, or wherever our country needs us tomorrow, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for each other, for our nation, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here, but then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you could still have hepatitis C, a serious disease that's a leading cause of liver cancer. If you were born from 1945 to 65, you should get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments can cure this disease. Talk to your doctor about getting tested. A message from the CDC.
See that cute little dog in the pet store window? Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that forces caged, neglected, and often sick dogs to churn out puppy after puppy to be sold for profit. Meanwhile, millions of wonderful, healthy pets end up in animal shelters. This leads to the killing of more than 9,000 by the end of today. But with one simple choice, you can help. Just by deciding to adopt instead of purchase your next pet. Animal shelters are full of amazing pets looking for a home. When you adopt your new best friend, not only are you saving a life, you're taking a stand against puppy mills. When your friends see the smart choice and impact you've made, they adopt their next pet and share with 5 of their friends, who share with 5 more. Before long, thousands get involved. Pet stores stop selling dogs from puppy mills, and even more lives are saved. And with your help, we can save them all. Visit bestfriends.org/puppymills to learn more.
Thousands of families affected by disasters, like the recent wildfires, urgently need support. You can help the American Red Cross provide warm meals, shelter, and hope to families when they need it most. Please donate today to Red Cross Disaster Relief to help people affected by disasters, big and small. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS today. Your support is critical. We can't do it without you.
You want to know what time it is? It's time to bring the rain.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Coming to you live from the Bunker Eye Studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. Yes, and I did check again over the weekend, and no, it didn't change. Here it is on Monday, second hour of the program on Monday, February number 20 in the year of our Lord 2017. Call-in number is 603-835-3226. I highly recommend that if you have a differing opinion, or even if you just happen to agree with me, I know, believe it or not, more people actually, when they break it down into a logical sense, more people agree with me than disagree with me. Even when it comes to the left. When you get a lefty, when you get a leftist to actually stop and think logically, when you ask them pointed questions and you get them to think logically, they can't disagree with me. On the macro issues. I have often said it is not my job, it is not my goal to get everybody to think like me. No, oh, hell no. I don't want everybody. That would be boring as hell if everybody thought exactly like I thought. The world would be boring. I mean, it'd be a good thing, but it would still be boring. My goal is simply to get everybody to think logically. Because if everybody thinks logically, we're going to automatically agree on the macro. The macro being freedom, meaning the Constitution, smaller, more efficient, responsive government to the people, not oppressive government on the people. Now, sure, we may disagree about the micro, about how best to achieve that. Hell, the founders agreed on the macro, but they oftentimes disagreed vehemently on the micro, on how best to achieve it. I mean, for instance, you had people who were federalists. They believed in a very strong, not necessarily big, but very strong federal government. You had those that were independents and individualists who believed that the states needed to be stronger than the federal government. But they had one thing in common. They all agreed that, yes, as a union, that we were stronger and that we should all band together and become one great union to protect liberty, to protect our God-given rights for every individual. Now, sure, we stumbled along the way. I know slavery is a big stumble, but yeah, we stumbled along the way. But it's all about the macro. Then we can start, arguing about and debating about the micro and how to best to achieve it. Right now, we don't have a macro discussion. We're not agreeing on the macro because you have those who believe in a big socialist type of government. Sure, they want a strong federal bureaucracy. By the way, the founders who were federalists, who wanted a strong federal government, they weren't for bureaucracy. If you notice, they agreed to limit the government to certain aspects of our daily life. Even the Federalists. So you see why I say they agreed on the macro, the general principle? Because even the Federalists weren't about a huge, massive bureaucracy of a government, because they knew that was not going to be responsive to the people, and it was going to be liberty oppressive. It was going to take away people's rights. And let's face it, the founders, even the Federalists, were not about taking away people's rights because they didn't want their own rights taken away. But, and it's just when you're able to get the rank and file, and that's the John and Jane Doe liberal to actually think, then they start to come around. And they start saying, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Now, we're not automatically, just because we agree on the macro doesn't mean we're automatically going to agree on the micro. I don't expect us to agree on the micro when it comes to that kind of stuff. But it's a beginning to get everybody to agree on the macro. That's the whole point. I mean, even people that regularly listen to this program, we don't agree on everything on the micro level. In fact, we might even disagree vehemently. And that's okay. That good, solid debate helps this country become better. But the problem is, we don't have, we've got nearly half the country, about 40% of this country, that doesn't think. All they do is react on emotion. And they don't even want to know about the macro. All they know is what the government isn't doing for them. And if you go back and you tell them, that, hey, remember one of your idols. I love to do this to people, because they always hold up John Fitzgerald Kennedy, President Kennedy, JFK. He's an idol. He's a leftist idol. Well, not really. Because JFK had a speech, a very famous speech, and one of the lines in that speech is, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And today we have a bunch of leftist liberal snowflakes running around. They're not asking what they can do for the country. They're asking what their country can do for them. They're demanding that the country do for them. I mean, I don't know where that came from anyway. Well, we do know it stems from this whole notion of participation trophy type of mentality. We got a group of parents, most of them were baby boomers, that got it in their head somehow, somewhere, for some reason, that kids couldn't handle, losing at anything. If they competed, they couldn't handle losing. And most kids handle losing just fine. And they learned how to cope with it. And they learned how to translate what they learned in their childhood into their adulthood. But if you take the point where you don't allow them to lose and feel the loss and learn how to cope with it, and you shelter them for it, and it doesn't matter if they come in first place or last place. It doesn't matter, if the last place, if there's only 5 teams or 50 teams and everybody gets a trophy just for participating. Oh, you're a winner for participating. Well, then they grow up, and then if you keep telling them that you're special and special, and it got to the point where I couldn't even turn on freaking Sesame Street. Because all they talked about is everybody being special. I'm special, you're special. Well, if everybody's special, nobody's special. Then you get all these kids running around, and I have not seen such arrogance in a group of people other than I've seen in these wonderful millennials. I mean, they run around thinking everybody needs to bow down. But the funny thing is that they all think everybody else should bow down to them, and none of them think they should bow down to anybody else. Well, if nobody's bowing down to anybody, then nobody's all that special, are they? I know that's logical, Rod. You can't go that way. They wouldn't understand it. You'll start hearing brains pop if you start talking like that, right? Yes, but that's my job. It's my job to think that way. Now, back to the Washington Post piece. Now, McCain said if there was ever out in Munich now, in Germany, if ever there was a time to treat this question with deadly seriousness, it is now. And he's talking about in recent years, the question would invite accusations of hyperbole and altruism, not this year. And if you have any, in case there was any doubt that McCain was talking poignantly about Trump, here's what he said that followed that line. The founders of the Munich Conference. Notice he said the founders of the Munich Conference, not the founders of America. Arizona, are you paying attention? You know what? I'm going to do a commercial. Arizona needs to have me come out there and speak to you. I don't care what group you are out in Arizona. You need to have me come out there. Because if you're electing a guy that believes in the founders of the Munich Conference and not the founders of this great country, you've got a massive problem. And he was just reelected, right? So, yeah. So we got to deal with this guy until 2022. He's got 6 years in because he just got elected, reelected. Right? It wasn't 14 that he got reelected, was it? Was it this year? He's not my senator, so sometimes it's hard for me to keep. I can't keep track of 100 senators. I'm only supposed to keep track of my own. Sometimes the 2 senators that I have to keep track of, they're so, Jean Shaheen and now Maggie Hassan, or Maggie Hassan, depending on how you want to pronounce it, tomato. They're enough for me to keep track of. So McCain, he's the guy from Arizona. Maybe it's just maybe it's too hot for him out there. I don't know. Maybe we should send him to, is Barbados? Well, Barbados is not as hot as Arizona. Maybe we should send him there. In any case, he said the founders of the Munich Conference would be alarmed by an increasing turn away from universal values and toward old ties of blood and race and sectarianism. In other words, nationalism. Let me translate for you. What John McCain is saying is that the founders of the Munich Conference would be alarmed that people in European countries in the West and in the US of A, North America, would be turning away from some sort of new universal value, which didn't exist before, basically, really, before the last 50 years, towards old values like, being proud of who you are, where you came from, and being proud of your community and your country as it is now. And that we're not supposed to be bound by old traditional blood value and blood ties and family ties. Oh, no. That's just so old-fashioned, Rod. He went on to say they would be alarmed by the hardening resentment we see towards immigrants and refugees and minority groups, especially Muslims. Well, yeah, because Muslims want to kill us. I don't know about you, but I would have a bit of resentment towards people who want to kill me too, simply because I don't think like they think. Anybody else have a problem with that? The founders of the Munich conference, he continued, they would be alarmed by the growing inability and even unwillingness to separate truth from lies. Oh, you mean like the left, John? Mean like the left, Senator? And the founders of the Munich conference, they would be alarmed that more and more of our fellow citizens seem to be flirting with authoritarianism and romanticizing it as a moral equivalent. Authoritarianism from Trump? Or would that be from the left that dictates when and where you can say the name Jesus Christ, when and where you can put up a cross, who's going to live next to whom, whether or not those people want to live next to each other? Oh, no, the government's going to decide for you. What you can do with your own property, I don't know, that seems to me authoritarianism to me, and not the other way when Trump is trying to loosen the grip of the federal government on everybody's throat and let them decide for themselves in many avenues and many aspects of their lives. I guess now we have redetermined, or we have come up with a new definition of authoritarianism. And allowing people to make decisions for themselves instead of the government making it for them, I guess that's the new definition of authoritarianism.
You're listening to the Rod Eccles Show, the coolest, most politically incorrect, conservative black man on the planet.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-595-2614 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 595-2614 to take your call now. Call 800-595-2614. That's 800-595-2614. Again, 800-595-2614.
It started with a knock, but it wouldn't end there. What happens in the story next, many wouldn't understand, and most wouldn't believe. 5 + 2 = Perfection by Samuel Rosette Jr. is a must-read. The scriptures within are reminders of the ancient past, and yet intriguingly infuses with texts which stand on the edge of the stage of relevancy. Available online at Westbow Press, Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and SamuelRosetteJr.com.
We've all heard of male enhancement, but now there's an expert on true male enhancement in the areas that really count. In Herb Ellis's book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, you'll find answers to questions like, why doesn't she want to have sex? A quick start, quick results workout guide. Plus, what you can do as a side hustle to make money now. With all the great tips in this book, every man can benefit. Get the book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, on Amazon.com.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, a long-haired young person came into our bank and said to me, I bet you won't lend me money to buy an electric guitar. Well, he was making $100 a week, and he was over 18, and I said, I bet you I will lend you money to buy an electric guitar. And I did. So what happens? The punk gets busted for possession of dangerous drugs, and we're out $350. There's one thing about kids nowadays. You don't have to give them credit.
Universal Bank. We trust you. About as far as we can throw you.
Folks, no, I'm here. I was just trying to clean off some of the cigar ash that I accidentally dropped into my lap here from my little short story. I don't do that often, but well, I'm running low on them. My favorite cigar shop, Castro's Cigar Shop here in New Hampshire. I didn't see any. Last time I was in there, they didn't have, I'm going to have to get, the owner's name is Eric. I'm going to have to get on Eric to get some more of those in. I'm going to start buying them by the box, I guess. Anyway, and if you are into cigars, and if you're ever in New Hampshire, there are 4 locations of Castro's Backroom Cigar Shop. And no, he's not into, trust me, Eric is not into he's a very conservative type of person. He's not into Fidel Castro, but it was a cute name, and it's worked for him for 20 years now. He's had his cigar. He started 20 years. Jeez, has it been that long ago? In any case, there you have it. I still like the Fuentes short stories. Still one of my faves, and they're small little things. One of the things that we have to understand about, John McCain is now just a bitter man. No, don't doubt me on this, folks. Because here's John McCain. John McCain was supposed to be president. He was supposed to, John McCain was supposed to have had his 2 terms in office instead of Barack Hussein Obama. It's supposed to be John McCain. And he is livid. Now, John McCain spent years and years, waiting his turn. I waited my turn. And it was my turn. It was my turn, damn it. And then that Barack Obama, he had to come make some sort of history, and he stole it from me. It was my turn. And now this guy who Trump, who's never held a political office, I spent decades waiting in line. He's bitter. Now, I suppose if I had been such a long-standing and long-serving senator myself, and my party said, okay, John, you were a good boy. You waited your turn. We know we made you wait for G.W. Bush because, after all, we had to have another Bush because it was the name, and we had to, make sure that we won the White House after Clinton was president for 2 terms. So Bush was it. So you waited your turn. You were a good boy. Now it's your turn. We'll make you president, John. We promise. And then something happened, and he didn't get it. He waited his turn, and he didn't get it. I mean, they even shoved aside Mitt Romney for McCain. The Republican Party pretty much pulled a Hillary Clinton on Bernie Sanders in order to get McCain the nomination. Because they promised him it was John, it's your turn. And John proceeded to screw it up himself. And you can always tell that it was something that John McCain screwed up because Try to get Sarah Palin to talk about her time running as a VP nominee under McCain. She won't do it. She won't go into great depth about it. I don't know. Some people say it's because she's ashamed and embarrassed that she actually got tied up with McCain, which probably, and some people are saying her being tied up with McCain ended her political career. There is some truth to that, by the way. But McCain is he's a bitter old man now. I don't know, how old is he now? Anybody know how old John McCain really is? Isn't he? If he's not 80, he's almost 80. Yeah, isn't he? Shouldn't he? Well, he's like 78, 79. Well, bitter is bitter, folks.
The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved, and 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, we have served our nation as a force in readiness. From combat operations to humanitarian assistance in every corner of the world. No matter where the mission takes us today, or wherever our country needs us tomorrow, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for each other, for our nation, for us all, the few, the proud, the Marines.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
I'm not Rod Eccles, and I approve this message.
So much going on out there. So much. Excuse me. And there's a lot to be said about this John McCain speech that was really pointed and geared towards trying to take Trump down. Now, one of the problems that McCain has with Trump is that Trump is all about America first. Now, and of course, there is this narrative going around that Trump is anti-NATO. No, Trump is not anti-NATO. What Trump has said is that, look, you people out there who claim to think that, that America should stop being the world's cops. And Trump is saying, well, fine, great. Yeah, we've gotten a bad deal. We've paid a lot of money and expended a lot of blood and treasure over the years, being a part of NATO and other organizations, trying to help maintain freedom, and we're the ones that are spending the most. And of course, you have all these wonderful people here in this country that talk about, well, we spend all this money on defense. Well, do you realize that about half of our defense budget is spent overseas? I mean, all the wonderful bases in places that we should not need them. And Trump is talking about NATO. Now, I know we got a ton of bases in Arabia and the Middle East, and we should probably close at least half of them. But understand that a lot of this money is being spent on U.S. bases in European nations that are a part of NATO. And NATO should be able to, look, we've got the European Union now. Why aren't they ponying up a bigger portion of their own defense? Why is it being, set at the feet of the U.S. of A? I mean, historically speaking, you would think that they would have spent all of this time since World War II rebuilding their own militaries to such a point where they wouldn't need the U.S. At all, or at least on a very minimal basis. But no, instead, much of Europe went on this socialistic rant and started. Where do you think this whole notion of universal basic income comes from? It comes from Europe. And it only comes from these countries that haven't had to honestly spend their rightful share on their own defense. We've done it for them. No. Granted, I get why some people don't want Germany to be all big and bad and powerful again, because Germany was the cause of 2 world wars in less than 50 years. I get people being a little scared of Germany rising again, but what about all the rest of the countries? I mean, for decades we were in places. Well, we're not in. We don't have an actual military base in France, but we were in France and Spain and in Greece and Italy. In other places. Why are we spending that much? Why are we spending so much when these European nations don't even want to spend their own money on it? Well, we're spending it because they don't. And they don't spend it because we will. And what Trump is saying, it's about time that we renegotiate this. And because look, you know who NATO really is? Now, I hate to bring this down to the basics of it, folks, but really, honestly, truly, who is NATO really? The major players of NATO are Great Britain and the United States. That's it. Now, when it comes to a minor role, you have the French and the Germans, but the Germans aren't allowed to build as massive as they possibly could be, based on their economy and their technology. So it's basically the French, and to a lesser degree the Germans on a secondary tier. Now, you can't blame places like Finland and Sweden for not having massive military budgets because they just don't have the population to support such a thing. And they do their own. They keep their own borders safe, except for the fact that they let in all these refugees for no reason at all, all these so-called refugees. But they spent their own money and time. They don't utilize a lot of American and British technology in their military in the Nordic countries. They don't. They have, they're pretty independent when it comes to that. So if they can do it, the rest of Europe can do it as well. And to a certain degree, France is very independent too. They have their own stuff. But they do look to the U.S. a lot for technology and putting into some of their aircraft and military equipment. But pretty much NATO is the Brits and the Americans. Now, again, you can't blame Canada for not really fully participating because there's only 35 million of them. So it's not like they're going to have a huge, massive military either. They just don't have the ability to field and maintain such a military. But, look, trust me, the Canadians are not wimps. The Canadians are not wimpy. They just don't have the population size to be a world mover and shaker. Their economy is not that huge, simply because there's only, not because they're dumb, but because there's only 35 million of them. That's it. You have a small This is one of the things, that, as a side note, this is one of the things I tell fellow Americans. Look, you cannot be so discouraged by the fact that China is overtaking our economy. There's 1.3 billion of them. They have 1 billion more people than we do. Simply by the numbers, logic would dictate that if they ever came into the 20th or 21st century, they would overtake us as far as the economy is concerned. And they would overtake us militarily by sheer size. Doesn't mean they can overtake us technologically speaking, but just by sheer numbers they could. It's simply because they have the population that we don't have. And that's just logical crunching the numbers there, folks. I mean, I'm not saying that China's is greater than the U.S., not at all. But simply by sheer numbers. Now, technology has been able to give us an advantage over such a nation with such large population numbers. But if we don't continue to spend and develop our military, well, then China can even overtake that, and that means we're in deep shit, actually. And right now, there are areas that China is well advanced that we were surprised that they would be so advanced. Now, granted, yeah, some of that stuff was sold to them or given to them by the Clintons, and some of it was stolen. I understand that. But you have to understand that its population, it means a lot. Now, Russia is a formidable foe simply because they have a large population. So they're able to field a larger military. They're able to field a more technologically advanced military, and they're able to maintain it because they have a population base that can do that. I mean, it's economically impossible for Canada to have a 1 million-man army. It is. It's just economic. I mean, unless you want to go back to the ancient days when you had warrior states. But that's about it. That's the real reality of this. And this is what Donald Trump is trying to say when he's saying that NATO needs to be renegotiated, that member states need to be able to put up their honest, fair share in their own self-defense. Now, when you're talking about NATO, you're talking about the European Union. Well, some of the European Union nations are not actually in NATO. Why? I mean, all of the what Trump is basically saying, Mr. McCain, is that, yeah, the world has changed and NATO has not. If you're going to have these nations that are part of NATO now a part basically of a new union or a new country, well, doesn't that obligate the entire country or union to participate? And you can say, well, you know, Russia doesn't want any more nations in NATO. Well, it's too damn bad because there's a European Union. How is it that you can have, say, I don't know, France and Germany and England and Ireland and Sweden in NATO and also be a part of the European Union, but not have Italy and Greece? I mean, just for an example. And they have the same currency. And now the European Union is talking about forming its own military, European Union military. Well, what does that do with NATO? Are these people even paying attention to this stuff? The whole dynamic has changed. NATO is currently outdated the way it is structured. And frankly, if you have a European Union that is trying to become a European country, because now they have, you know, they're trying to coagulate power in Brussels and have a centralized government, much like our federal government. They're trying really hard to get that. And now they want to have a new, more centralized, unified military. Then what the hell do they need us for? They don't. That's what Donald Trump's whole point is, Mr. McCain. The problem is that you're such an old curmudgeon that you're stuck in the past. You can't fight current and future wars being stuck in the past. It's just not going to work. So when you have a population that is capable of supporting a highly technical military, well, then that becomes a formidable foe. I know some people are probably saying, well, look at Japan, Rod. Japan didn't have the numbers in China, and they overtook China a number of times. Well, throughout much of the two nations' military history, much of that time, Japan had been militarily superior to China. That's what does it. Not sheer numbers. It's the technological superiority. Well, now, because of what the world has done to Japan and made their constitution so they can't have offensive capabilities, well, Japan is kind of, you know, at the mercy of China right now. And at some point, that whole situation is going to have to change too. If Japan is going to be viable and be able to defend itself and its area, it's going to have to be able to do more than just be defensive. I'm serious. So, people just, they don't stop and it's not just regular people. It's our political class too. They just don't stop and think. And McCain is over there just showing how big of an old curmudgeon, bitter old man that he is. Because if he ever just stopped and thought before he opened his mouth, he wouldn't say 90% of the stuff that comes out. I mean, I don't know, folks. Yeah, whatever. I guess this stuff is falling on deaf ears.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-595-2614 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 595-2614 to take your call now. Call 800-595-2614. That's 800-595-2614. Again, 800-595-2614.
It started with a knock, but it wouldn't end there. What happens in the story next, many wouldn't understand, and most wouldn't believe. 5 + 2 = Perfection by Samuel Rosette Jr. is a must-read. The scriptures within are reminders of the ancient past, and yet intriguingly infuses with texts which stand on the edge of the stage of relevancy. Available online at Westbow Press, Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and SamuelRosetteJr.com.
We've all heard of male enhancement, but now there's an expert on true male enhancement in the areas that really count. In Herb Ellis's book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, you'll find answers to questions like, why doesn't she want to have sex? A quick start, quick results workout guide. Plus, what you can do as a side hustle to make money now. With all the great tips in this book, every man can benefit. Get the book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, on Amazon.com.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, a long-haired young person came into our bank and said to me, I bet you won't lend me money to buy an electric guitar. Well, he was making $100 a week, and he was over 18, and I said, I bet you I will lend you money to buy an electric guitar. And I did. So what happens? The punk gets busted for possession of dangerous drugs, and we're out $350. There's one thing about kids nowadays. You don't have to give them credit.
Universal Bank. We trust you. About as far as we can throw you.
603-835-3226. That is the call-in number, should you wish to utilize it. They are at Times Square over the weekend saw something that was rather, I don't know, could you say it was spectacular? Now, spectacular can be used in a positive and a negative, as a positive and as a negative. But in Times Square, and this is from the Gateway Pundit, and I wonder why this isn't being reported in places like, the New York Times or even on the three lefty networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, or even CNN or MS. But But this from yesterday in New York Times Square, Chelsea Clinton was there with her daughter, Charlotte, and Linda Sarsour, the wonderful Hamas darling, was also there. And they were there spreading hysteria and propaganda about President Donald Trump. It was a Muslim and Muslim sympathizer protest of Donald Trump, and they were shouting very loudly, Allahu Akbar. This is what was said is being reported that was going on in Times Square. A loud call to prayer in Times Square as Muslims protested Trump and shouted Allahu Akbar. Now, Sarsour gave a speech, and she reminded people about the executive order that Democratic President FDR passed, which put Japanese Americans in internment camps, implying that Muslims and minorities could possibly suffer the same fate under a Trump presidency. Now, again, FDR rounded up all the Japanese Americans just about everywhere in the country. I don't see Trump running around. Yeah, and he barred any more immigration coming from any Japanese people could not come into the U.S. of A. For obvious reasons. Made sense at the time. Now, I'm not saying I agree with the internment camps. No, that was a bad idea. But barring anybody else from coming in, that made sense. You also couldn't be German in coming to the country. In fact, there were a lot of Jews that were turned away at the time that could not enter the U.S. of A. Especially if they were German Jews or Jewish German. But, but it made sense at the time. But Trump isn't barring everyone who's of the Muslim faith from coming into the country, which is, if you're coming from one of the 7 places that were mentioned in the executive order, it makes sense. Now, sure, you could argue that maybe that he should have added places like Saudi Arabia. Oh yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. He probably should have. But the other countries made sense too. So, but it wasn't a Muslim. Obviously, anybody from Indonesia, the world's most populated Muslim nation, they could still come in. God forbid that he would ever to limit travel coming from Indonesia, because then of course, they'd probably say that Trump is a racist because, hey, that's where Obama grew up, right? Obama grew up in part of his childhood was spent in Indonesia. Anybody remember the statue of the child Obama that they put up and then promptly took down in Indonesia? Anybody remember that? Yeah, we don't recall that too often, do we? Because it wasn't widely reported. I think that they're putting up a statue in honor of our president when he was a kid over there, when he was like 10. Less reported was they took it down, and there was a number of depending on who you spoke to about it, why they took it down. But I don't even know why they put it up in the first place. Well, because there are some people saying, well, because that just proves that Obama is a Muslim because they backed him. So did Obama get backing from any Muslim country when he was running the first time? I don't know. Was he backed by them? I mean, we're hearing all this stuff that Russia interfered with our election. Still trying to figure out exactly how Russia hacked our election. Can't get them to really tell you exactly how they did that. Well, I don't know. Somehow they were able to do it, I suppose, but nobody wants to tell us exactly how they did it.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I'm a leftist elite Hollywood a-hole? If so, good news. The Rod Eccles Hollywood Community College is now open, featuring such courses as unemployment is not paid vacation. No, Americans don't want to spend $19 for an order of french fries, and the ever popular shut the hell up. Why, just listen to this big-time celebrity endorsement.
I'm not Rosie O'Donnell, and I think this school's offensive, sexist, and racist.
And I think you're a giant a-hole who needs to shut the hell up. Hey, we teach a course in that. The Rod Eccles Hollywood Community College, where being an a-hole is not a guarantee you'll be an A student.
The following program is recommended for mature individuals and may contain material unsuitable for morons, cretins, and dishwipes. If you are a moron or a member of the PTL Club, please turn off your radio, because we don't need any more stupid, narrow-minded, pencil-neck geeks who wouldn't know the First Amendment if it came up and bit them on the butt. Thank you.
The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved, and 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, we have served our nation as a force in readiness. From combat operations to humanitarian assistance in every corner of the world. No matter where the mission takes us today, or wherever our country needs us tomorrow, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for each other, for our nation, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here, but then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you could still have hepatitis C, a serious disease that's a leading cause of liver cancer. If you were born from 1945 to 65, you should get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments can cure this disease. Talk to your doctor about getting tested. A message from the CDC.
See that cute little dog in the pet store window? Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that forces caged, neglected, and often sick dogs to churn out puppy after puppy to be sold for profit. Meanwhile, millions of wonderful, healthy pets end up in animal shelters. This leads to the killing of more than 9,000 by the end of today. But with one simple choice, you can help, just by deciding to adopt instead of purchase your next pet. Animal shelters are full of amazing pets looking for a home. When you adopt your new best friend, not only are you saving a life, you're taking a stand against puppy mills. When your friends see the smart choice and impact you've made, they adopt their next pet and share with 5 of their friends, who share with 5 more. Before long, thousands get involved. Pet stores stop selling dogs from puppy mills, and even more lives are saved. And with your help, we can save them all. Visit bestfriends.org/puppymills to learn more.
Thousands of families affected by disasters, like the recent wildfires, urgently need support. You can help the American Red Cross provide warm meals, shelter, and hope to families when they need it most. Please donate today to Red Cross Disaster Relief to help people affected by disasters, big and small. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS today. Your support is critical. We can't do it without you.
You want to know what time it is? It's time to bring the rain.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 here on the Rod Eccles Show. The fastest 3 hours in Internet Talk Radio is right here as we continue to broadcast live from the bunkerized studio located somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where it is a sunny morning and no wind, or very little wind for the first time in the past couple of weeks, actually. In fact, it has basically seemed like, with all the wind that has been going, we had a lot of wind happening around here. With all the wind that we've had, it resembled more like March. You know, the windy, blustery days of March rather than the cold days of February. But it's a rather there isn't a lot of wind out there right now, but there's still a breeze, and it's a rather balmy 36 degrees for those of you who are down south and in other warmer climes. I know you're like, brr. Well, this is a heat wave. Yesterday it actually got up to 52 here in the southern part of the state. And the week before that, it was, we had wind chills below 0. And so, yeah, it feels really warm out. One of the things about the human body, which is really kind of amazing, is how we adjust to our climate, the climes that we are in, and people, if you ever, when you're coming out of winter, when we're coming out of winter, 50 degrees feels like it's 70 or 70 degrees. It really does. Because when you're coming out of January and February, when it's, 20 and above zero, 20 degrees above zero down to zero, and in February especially where it can get below zero, and you get into March and April and the temperature rises up into the 50s, it feels like 70. I mean, especially when the sun is out and the sun is hitting, people get warm, they get hot, because our body's has adjusted to the colder temperature. Now, evidently, there's this physiological change that happens in the human body, and certain chemicals are more prevalent or less prevalent depending on the time of year. That helps to regulate your body temperature, which makes you get used to colder weather. Which is why if you're from the South and you move north, which is why you tend to get colder faster when you're in the north than people who move down south. They tend to overheat or get hot at a lower temperature, where people who are used to that hot weather, Florida, it gets down to 75 degrees and 70 or 75, and people want to put on a jacket, but people from the north, they're fully in shorts, hitting the beach and everything else at 75 or 80 degrees. They're trying to cool off because the body has to acclimate. Now, the funny thing is when you see a northerner who goes down south, and I've seen this a lot, where people, they move from the Northeast to Florida because they think, Florida's where it's at. And if they're the younger set, if they're a younger person, what usually happens is they find out Florida is really not for them yet. They're too young to be in Florida, I guess, is what they determine. But they end up moving back. But the funny thing is that they move back and they don't have a lot of the stuff that they moved down there with as far as clothing, and they complain about being so damn cold. And they're from New England. But it has to do with them adjusting to the temperature. Now, I remember quite vividly moving from Greece. My father was in the military, moving from Athens, Greece, and then having to spend the winter in Buffalo, New York. Now, we weren't exactly prepared for Buffalo, New York winter after living in Greece for 2.5 years. So it was, for my mother, it was kind of a wake-up call for her to remember her time in Buffalo and Buffalo, New York winters. But we basically had to gear up, and get all the warm weather gear and that kind of stuff because we didn't have it, because whatever we left the U.S. with, we outgrew it. So we didn't have, we had to get all new stuff. But and then we proceeded to move to northern Michigan. There you have it. Try explaining that to people. Going from Greece to Buffalo to northern Michigan, Lake Superior, just off Lake Superior. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Not really. But anyway, welcome back. The call-in number this hour, as it is every hour, is 603-835-3226. 603-835-3226. Apparently, there is a Twitter thing going on, and it's a video of a group of what appears to be Christians kneeling down and praying, and then in the background comes up a couple of a few Islamists, I guess, and it's hard to hear in the video, but I've retweeted it. So if you follow me on Twitter, and if you're not, you should. It's not hard. I'm easy to find. Elrod. That's it. That's all you got to look for. Elrod. That's ELROD. That'll pop up for you. But I retweeted it, so you can give me your take on it. But it looks like and this is in France. So it looks like there's a group of Christians who've knelt down and began praying in the street, And somebody decides to come up and challenge him from behind. And one of the Frenchmen, a very stocky biker-looking type of Frenchman, decides to challenge him, and literally looks like just one left hook to the jaw and drops the Islamist. And now I don't know if that's a very Christian act, but considering what has been going on in France of late, maybe this guy just felt that his physical well-being was threatened as well as everybody else's, and decided to take action before action was taken against him. Can't blame him for that, especially when you have this whole yesterday this loud Muslim call to prayer in Times Square with Chelsea. I am not. Well, I just this is worse than Stockholm Syndrome, folks. Let's be clear on this. Now, all these people that claim that they want, that they're accepting of Islam and Muslims, this has got to be like Stockholm Syndrome, because the very notion that these religious texts in Islam call for their deaths, the death of the supporters. If you do not convert to Islam, they don't care if you support them or not. They still call for your death. And if you are a part of a group of people that just do not have any opportunity whatsoever to live under Sharia law, gay people, the entire LGBT, PDQ, XYZ community, the only reason why, and this is just how fabulously stupid the left is, the only reason why you would support somebody like that is because your so-called enemy, the political right in this country, is against them. Because otherwise it would make no sense. Because you should understand that unless you convert to Islam, and many of you on the left, you don't want to even be bothered by religion at all, but you just think, especially Christianity, oh my God, if you're a Christian or even a Jew, forget it. But hey, Islam, that's fine. But Islam is calling for your conversion or your death. There is no gray area. It's one or the other. So I'm left to think and believe that the only reason that you are doing this is because you think it's going to be a thorn in the side of those in the political right, which you also hate. Now, it makes, in this particular case, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, doesn't make any sense. There is no logical reason for supporting Islam if you read the tenets of Islam. The only people that should be supporting Islam are those people who believe in the tenets and have converted or who are already Muslim. Now, I can see why, the Nation of Islam, Dr. Farrakhan and his ilk are in support of many of the refugees, but Farrakhan has also, called for some vetting of some of these refugees because they understand. There is a basically there's a civil war in Islam going on right now between the various major sects of Islam. Christianity, you have major sects. You have the Protestant and the Catholic, right? The same thing goes on over in Islam. You have different major sects. And in some cases, it really depends on the country that you're in that is going to determine the majority. And there's three major sects, but usually it's just two are really fighting against each other, right? How else do you explain Syria in a civil war? And how else do you explain, Iraq and Iran being bitter enemies for decades? Because they have different, and how else do you explain that, the Saudis don't like the Iranians and the Iranians don't like the Saudis? You got 3 or 4 different major sects of Islam, all concentrated in that area of the world. and which is why there's so much strife. Of course, then you throw in the Jew, and then that's for Israel, and that's a huge problem in and of itself. But it's the interesting thing is you don't have Catholics and Protestants. Well, we did. We did have Catholics and Protestants fighting each other, and that was in Northern Ireland. Anybody remember that? Yeah. Now, just think of that conflict in Northern Ireland on a much more massive scale, and then transferring that to the Middle East, and that's what you got going on there right now. And the interesting thing is that we're trying to mix these people here. We're trying to mix these different denominations, if you will, of Islam into the United States. Now that's a recipe for disaster. It is going to be a recipe for disaster. But hey, we can't tell the left anything like this, because that's, well, that's I guess that's just the way. I don't know. There are people who believe that Islam is satanic. Now, in the tenets that they espouse, I would say that's evil in nature. But is it full on Satanism? Well, it's not Satanism, but it is in a way devil worship. But that's I know I probably get in trouble for saying that about Islam. Now Muhammad, the original Muhammad, the founder of Islam, is not Satan himself. There are some people that have said that Muhammad was Satan. No, Muhammad was not Satan. Neither was Obama. Obama was not the Antichrist. We'd like to think that he was, but no, neither one of them were the Antichrist. Could you argue that they were Antichrist-like? Possibly, but they were not the Antichrist. Trust me, we'll know who the Antichrist is when he finally rises up and makes himself known. We'll know. There won't be any mistake, any doubt about it. Muhammad from 1,400 years ago was not the Antichrist. Obama, Barack Hussein Obama is not the Antichrist. But have they helped usher in the age of the Antichrist? Yeah.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-595-2614 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 595-2614 to take your call now. Call 800-595-2614. That's 800-595-2614. Again, 800-595-2614.
It started with a knock, but it wouldn't end there. What happens in the story next, many wouldn't understand, and most wouldn't believe. 5 + 2 = Perfection by Samuel Rosette Jr. is a must-read. The scriptures within are reminders of the ancient past, and yet intriguingly infuses with texts which stand on the edge of the stage of relevancy. Available online at Westbow Press, Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and SamuelRosetteJr.com.
We've all heard of male enhancement, but now there's an expert on true male enhancement in the areas that really count. In Herb Ellis's book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, you'll find answers to questions like, Why doesn't she want to have sex? A quick start, quick results workout guide. Plus, what you can do as a side hustle to make money now. With all the great tips in this book, every man can benefit. Get the book, Husband 2.0 Real Male Enhancement, on Amazon.com.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, a long-haired young person came into our bank and said to me, "I bet you won't lend me money to buy an electric guitar." Well, he was making $100 a week, and he was over 18, and I said, "I bet you I will lend you money to buy an electric guitar." And I did. So what happens? The punk gets busted for possession of dangerous drugs, and we're out $350. There's one thing about kids nowadays. You don't have to give them credit.
Universal Bank. We trust you. About as far as we can throw you.
I just wish somebody could actually, from the left, if they could just fully, if we ask them a question, maybe we shouldn't ask them a question. Maybe we should ask them a question. If we ask them a question, maybe if they would just fully answer it for once. I hate, this is, one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of interviews, especially with people on the left. Because I don't think we'd get very far in an interview. We wouldn't get through a lot because if you didn't answer one of my questions, I'd keep hounding you on the question. That's just because if you're gonna don't beat around the bush. If you don't want to answer a particular question, then this is what you do. If they ask you a specific question, you just say, well, I'd rather not answer that at this point in time. Don't go off into some diatribe and not answer the damn question. And then if they ask you a question again, maybe they reword it, and then you go off into the same diet. I mean, come on, really? But I would like for the left just to absolutely just once and for all answer specific questions that a lot of people have about their support of Islam. Exactly why? No, it doesn't make sense to people. It just doesn't make sense. Like, here's another story from the American Mirror.com. Thousands chant Allahu Akbar for Farrakhan in Detroit. Now, the Nation of Islam had its annual gathering in Detroit over the weekend, and thousands of attendees chanted Allahu Akbar as Louis Farrakhan made his way onto the stage. Now, he blamed the world's ills on white people. For 6,000 years, the people of the earth have suffered under a mischief-making rule, bloodshed and war, hatred and strife, all because a man with a new color, or lack thereof, thought that he was better than all of those who inhabited the earth before, and he was even a thought, Farrakhan said. So basically, Farrakhan is absolutely just wiping away 6,000 years of history by blaming it all on white people. So, Genghis or Genghis Khan, however you want to pronounce his name, he doesn't count. All of the Ottoman empires, all those wonderful empires of the East, they don't count. All the empires of Africa, the Egyptians, they don't count. The entire world's strife is laid at the feet of the European white man, according to Louis Farrakhan. Nobody else was at fault. You can't make this stuff up, folks. this is why it's so important to be educated properly in truth and in history. Now, there's no doubt that there were some European tyrants over the centuries, just as there were African and Middle Eastern and Eastern tyrants during that same time period. I don't know. Was Constantinople, was that a European white guy? I don't think so. Was Genghis or Genghis Khan, was he a white person? Well, I guess you could argue that he got his wasn't he educated partially in Rome, ancient Rome? So I guess you could say he was partly educated by the white man, and he was influenced by them, I suppose. I don't know, because hey, he liked the idea of having hot baths and running water and good sanitation for sin. That's what he wanted for his people too. But God forbid that you want something better for your people.
The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved, and 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, we have served our nation as a force in readiness. From combat operations to humanitarian assistance in every corner of the world. No matter where the mission takes us today, or wherever our country needs us tomorrow, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for each other, for our nation, for us all, the few, the proud, the Marines.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
Bring the rain.
There's a lot more interesting stories out there that we need to try to cover. Some of them are political in nature, and some of them are not political in nature, but I suppose maybe they could be at some point. They could be partly political. Well, take, for instance, Star Wars. Well, Star Wars isn't necessarily political in nature, but it is to a degree. And evidently, I brought you the story last week about Dubai wanting to have these drone, human-sized drones that can carry 1 and 2 people, real humans in them. They wanted 25% of their traffic, I guess, to be drone traffic by the year 2030, which is less than 15 years away, obviously. You're talking 12, 13 years from now. For those types of advancements that take place, which is highly doable, I suppose, but would you trust it? Well, here's something else from the futuristic, almost Star Trekian, or not Star Trekian, but Star Warsian. Would that be applicable to say that? BMW takes a cue from Lego and actually produces a working concept vehicle. BMW unveils a futuristic concept hover motorcycle. Back in January, Lego unveiled a 603-piece kit to create a model of the BMW R1200 GS adventure bike. Now, the designers went on to use the same pieces to make a flying motorbike model. Now, BMW engineers were so taken with the model that they decided to create a concept vehicle. The hover ride is a concept, and it's unclear at this particular point in time if BMW plans to create a commercially viable version. Now, yes, folks, this concept version does not have a single wheel. It is, indeed, a hover bike. Now we've seen these in Star Wars. We've seen hover bikes and things in other things, movies like what was the Harrison Ford movie, big movie, Blade Runner. I think had them, and other futuristic. We've had flying cars and flying motorbikes and things like that in other movies as well. Bruce Willis, Mia Milinovich, whatever her name is, also did it in, that's where I get the, I can't think of the title of the movie. It's Bruce Willis sci-fi. Everybody loves that movie. Chicken. I like chicken. In any case, a number of movies have portrayed having flying vehicles, including flying motorcycles. Well, looks like BMW is actually throwing down the gauntlet, and they have a working model. Concept. Now, will this concept ever come to light? You could have said in the past, if this were 30 years ago, we'll probably, it's going to take another 50, 100 years before we see that. But that's not the case anymore, because hovercraft technology has come down to the point of individual, everyday civilian usage. And this hovercraft technology is basically, with our drones, and they're scaling up these drones to be able to carry goods to people. And so now that we've got things like Walmart and Amazon and a few other companies experimenting and utilizing, testing these delivery drones, which are larger than your average toy drone that people use just for taking pictures with. These things are a little bit bigger. And, of course, you have military drones that are out there. And they're very large, some of them. And now you're looking at our military, and I'm sure other militaries across the globe are looking at a couple of weeks ago, I told you about a company that invented a kit that could be installed into full-size regular helicopters and turn the helicopter into a drone copter. So can you imagine having an Apache attack helicopter that they can put one of these kits in and becomes a drone? Well, so now you got full-size flying vehicles that are droned, that have become drones. So now you're looking at Dubai that is, seriously has prototypes, and they're beginning the testing phase of having human delivery drones out there, flying drones. And so now it's not a flash thought to say, well, geez, if you can have a flying car, basically, and we've had those for a while. We've had actually, flying cars. But if you say if we can have a flying car, then we can have a flying motorcycle. And the reality is that we'll probably, as far as being accepted by the public first, what we'll probably have is hover motorcycles being mass-produced before hover cars or flying cars. Now, you're going to have the drone cars, I'm sure, but things are just... Technology is really catching up to science fiction pretty damn fast now, and we're in that technological advancement state where this type of thing is going by fast, and I don't know if we're ready for it as far as civilization is concerned as a whole. Although I might want to try one, it might be cool to be on a hover bike. Seriously. Now, because I'm controlling it, I don't think I'm going to get into a drone craft anytime soon. I know we have drone vehicles already, but they're on rails and they're usually at airports. Now, if these things at these airports were actually flying or floating, I'm not sure I'd get on one. I'd probably walk terminal to terminal. But hey, if somebody wants to make a hover bike, I'm game to try it. Why not? Folks, even Norway right now, as I mentioned earlier in the program today, is riding the populist wave of politics. Yes, this is from Bloomberg, believe it or not. Leaders of the Center Party is critical of EU free trade. Now, this is in Norway. Polls suggest the party could tip the balance of power after the fall elections there in Norway. During its 96-year-old history, the Center Party has courted both conservatives and progressives while remaining steadfastly opposed to centralization, wolves and foreign cheese. Now, now the political party of choice for Norway's farmers is riding the populist wave. Yes, in the wake of Britain's vote to leave the European Union and the ascendancy of Donald Trump in the U.S., the Center Party is surging in the polls and aims to play a pivotal role in ousting the conservative-led minority government in September's general election. And this is happening in country after country over in Europe. You see it in France, where Le Pen, a devout French nationalist, is leading. And her contenders are also some form of French nationalists. So the progressive French like Hollande are out. You see in Italy, where their progressive prime minister and government was just ousted not too long ago. And the leading contenders to replace them are also more nationalistic and more Italian-centered. Italy first. Again, nothing. If you're in Italy, there's nothing wrong with Italy being first. If you're in France, there's nothing wrong with French first. If you're in England, there's nothing wrong with English first. And if you're in the USA, there's nothing wrong with America first. And if you're in Canada, by the same token, there's nothing wrong with Canada first. It doesn't mean that the rest of the world loses out. It just means that you have a union of people that have come together that have a common culture, common belief, common history, and those are the people that you want to have succeed. Because nobody else is going to care about the French more than the French. Nobody else is going to care more about the Italians than the Italians, and nobody's going to care more about Americans than Americans. Plain and simple, that's just the way it is. And this whole notion is that these people on the left think that, well, we can get rid of borders. No, you can't get rid of borders. Humankind is not there yet. We're not there yet. We cannot think evenly, because there are a number of different reasons why. Just take a look at what's going on in the Middle East. Even in the Middle East, within their own religion, they can't even agree. And they can't even agree to such a point where they're willing to kill each other by the hundreds of thousands. So humankind is nowhere near that peaceful state. I know we all talk about, we want peace and love and understanding, but it's just not current human nature. It's just not. So there's nothing wrong with this whole standpoint of thinking about your own neighborhood first. And in this particular case, neighborhood happens to be nation. And, if you believe all the progressives here in this country, you think it's only the U.S. that's thinking this way, but it's not. This is a worldwide phenomena, folks. This is an anti-globalist worldwide because people are realizing that the globalists aren't really in it for their general population. They're in it for their own limited inner circle themselves. That's all this is. This is about money and power and money. This is all this is about. And some of the conspiracy theorists out there, they're starting to see some of their conspiracy theories come to light. Now, it isn't via the so-called Bilderberg or Illuminati groups, but the whole premise behind what they've given, they've basically what a bunch of conspiracy theorists have tried to do is put a real human face onto this type of a movement, and thus they've come up with Illuminati and Bilderbergs and Skull and Bones and all that kind of stuff. And to some degree, the Templar Knights or Knights Templar, however you want to call them. By the way, anybody ever see this advertising for people to the Templar Knights are taking new members? I've seen it on Facebook a lot. I think I even got an email once. Like, folks, don't fall for that garbage. That's not the real Templar Knights. They're not out there openly advertising to join them. Trust me, it's something that you're probably going to have to be invited to, and it's not going to be an open call. It's kind of like the Gideons. Anybody know the Gideons? The Gideons are a group of Christians men, basically, that they're responsible for, if you go to hotels and motels all across this country anyway, and in many Western countries, they're the reason why you'll find a Bible in the bed, in that night table. If you open it up, you'll see courtesy of the Gideons. Well, that's them. But you just don't knock on the Gideon club door and say, I want to join. No, it's by invitation only. And it's very difficult to get in. I mean, you have to be nominated by, you have to be a Christian. You have to be nominated by your pastor or your father of your church, the head of your church, or your church governing body. And then there's a process that you have to go through. All right, I was once nominated but I didn't make it past the first round. I mean, they're very strict and serious about this stuff. So don't tell me that you're just opening up the doors to the Knights Templar to everybody and anybody who wants to freaking join. That's not the real thing. Don't fall for that garbage. They just don't let anybody in. Now, was I disappointed that I didn't get to become a Gideon? No, not really. But, I mean, I just wasn't. But, I mean, it was kind of nice to think that the church I was attending at the time would consider me for such a role. But, by the way, nobody from my church that I attended at that time, made it through. So maybe that says something about the church I attended, which I later found out was not exactly the greatest. But anyway, personal history that doesn't need to be aired. But so even the Norwegians are getting, these are people that are supposed to be so progressive and open-minded. And it's also happening in Sweden. And here's a story by Heat Street, heatst.com. Looks like Donald Trump was right about Sweden as well. Now, President Donald Trump was a subject of mockery on Sunday after delivering a speech in Florida in which he referred to an incident last night in Sweden, but it appears that he was referring to an actual and accurate news report, but it wasn't actually one that was technically live or breaking, but it was a news report that he was referring to that he had seen the previous night. And it had to do with the rising amount of violence and rapes in Sweden, and that the Swedish police were being overwhelmed by this influx of refugees. And of course, people like Hillary Clinton had to jump on the Twitter bandwagon and try to denigrate Donald Trump. But it just comes to show that these people aren't paying attention to real news at all. Because this story was picked up by Fox News after it was on international news. But ABC, CBS, NBC, MSMS, and Clinton News Network obviously weren't running it, so those wonderful people didn't see it. Just saying. We'll be back to wrap it up.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-595-2614 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 595-2614 to take your call now. Call 800-595-2614. That's 800-595-2614. Again, 800-595-2614.
It started with a knock, but it wouldn't end there. What happens in the story next, many wouldn't understand, and most wouldn't believe. 5 + 2 = Perfection by Samuel Rosette Jr. is a must-read. The scriptures within are reminders of the ancient past, and yet intriguingly infuses with texts which stand on the edge of the stage of relevancy. Available online at Westbow Press, Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and SamuelRosetteJr.com.
We've all heard of male enhancement, but now there's an expert on true male enhancement in the areas that really count. In Herb Ellis's book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, you'll find answers to questions like, why doesn't she want to have sex? A quick start, quick results workout guide. Plus, what you can do as a side hustle to make money now. With all the great tips in this book, every man can benefit. Get the book, Husband 2.0, Real Male Enhancement, on Amazon.com.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, a long-haired young person came into our bank and said to me, I bet you won't lend me money to buy an electric guitar. Well, he was making $100 a week, and he was over 18, and I said, I bet you I will lend you money to buy an electric guitar. And I did. So what happens? The punk gets busted for possession of dangerous drugs, and we're out $350. There's one thing about kids nowadays. You don't have to give them credit.
Universal Bank. We trust you. About as far as we can throw you.
See, this is what happens when you only listen to other people inside your own bubble. You don't even know when something else is real. Now, they're out there trying to say that what Trump was saying was just so inaccurate, but Trump was actually referring to something that he'd actually, because Trump admits to watching Fox News. He gets a lot of his basic information from watching places like Fox News and international news and reading the same, like the Daily News or the Daily Mail and places like that. And he's often been chastised for that. Oh, yeah, he gets his... Well, obviously he found something and knew something that the rest of you didn't. And remember when the left was chastising before, when it was just President-elect Donald Trump, who didn't sit in on a daily briefing, security briefing. And Trump said, well, if something new comes up that I need to know, I mean, after all, I'm not president yet, but if I really need to know about it, then they'll let me know. And now that he's been inaugurated and he is president, we're told that this is a guy who is at just about every daily briefing, national security briefing, and his predecessor didn't do that. But Trump does it. And he's there on a very regular basis, and he asked, according to people who participate in these regular briefings, this guy he's on the ball because he's asking very pointed questions and getting pointed information that he needs in order to make proper decisions. And we didn't have that out of Obama. We didn't get that from Obama, and I doubt we'd get that from people like Hillary. But instead, what we're getting things like, Donald Trump is, tweeting, by the way. And, you get people like silly, stupid Chelsea Clinton tweeting like, what happened in Sweden on Friday night, huh? There are people that are close to the inner circle of the Clintons that have claimed that Chelsea is not a very smart girl at all. She's not bright. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but those close to them are saying that she's not a very bright lady. And you have to call her lady because she's in her mid-30s now. She's not a girl anymore, which is really hard to believe. But yeah, Chelsea's. Whatever happened to Amy Carter? Anybody know whatever happened? We never hear about her. It's kind of interesting. Why don't we hear about Amy Carter? We keep hearing about her dad, because Amy's going to be like, what, in her 60s or 70s by now? Never heard about Amy. I don't know. Anyway, we are out of time for today. That's what that sound indicates, but we will be back here tomorrow in about 21 hours, 9 a.m. sharp. So don't forget to be here. Set your alarm clock if you need to. But tune in, so we'll bring you some more great information, more great conversation, maybe take some of your calls. Until then, have a wonderful start of your week, rest of the Monday afternoon. We'll be back here tomorrow. Thanks for listening. I'm Rod Eccles. I'm out.
Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. A shameless politician always plays her cards right. Got a crew for the fight on the airwaves. Lapdogs in the press keep their mouths tight. Cause a Clinton never needs to explain what, why it is what they done or with who. A real Clinton knows that they're entitled, and you don't get to know what they do.
What difference does it make?
For Clinton, what's loaded in some fat Apple file? A Clinton plays the victim for promotion. A Clinton kills it off with a smile. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. A server full of secrets ain't no thing. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. Nothing ever hits with the sting.